As always, welcome everybody to another Sunday review. This vehicle was supposed to be out on Wednesday, but due to factors such as the fact that I was suddenly bombarded with a 10,000 word paper to do on various farm animals, it had to be moved back to today, as well as the fact that the patch came out on Tuesday, which meant that getting previous replays was a bit of a pain. So, these replays are less than 24 hours old, and we'll dive into them. But first, let's have a discussion and a look to what the Leopard 2 in Armored Warfare actually represents. The Leopard 2 was actually the testbed for lots of Armored Warfare stuff. It was the first tank to be given missiles, the first tank to be given an APS, and the first one to be given a PK armor, where it actually had the angled front plates on the turrets in Tier 7. It used to have Elahat missiles, and it used to have an APS. It has neither of them now. What it does have is a exceptionally strong cannon, 700 pen, with very decent deviation and everything. It's relatively fast, and its turret can hold up pretty well, and its turret ring isn't too shabby. Unfortunately, it is outdone by tanks such as the Sabra and the M62,000, both of which have high penetration. The K1A1 and the Type 90 have similar guns, and its hull armor is literally very weak, as you can see here. When we go to the protection of the tank, it is incredibly weak. Let us get a tier 6, for example, to see what I'm on about. So let's choose a M1 Abrams. Which 440 heat pen will go through, but the tank does have its issues. As you can see here, this beak armor is definitely a thing. However, the tank is actually pretty resistant to HEP rounds, which the Type 90 and the K1 is not. And then lastly, versus other tier 7s, such as the M1 Embryons again. As you can see here, its hull armor is very, very, very weak. The fact that this beat doesn't really help anything, and the fact that the armor rack is all the way over there really does not help its case. But at the very least, when it's hull down, it can be very difficult to penetrate, but if people do know where they're shooting at, they can pen you, and I have had at least some kind of luck attempting to hit the turret roof with armor. However, due to the fact that the abundance of cupolas and everything from the top, at various times your missiles will simply get sucked in or do reduced damage. So, modifications wise on the Leopard, the first thing to go for is obviously going to be the firepower line and also the tracks as well. This is a pretty decent tank. It's got a diesel engine, which means its gas turbine doesn't suck. So obviously getting the tracks will help, which means it is vastly more maneuverable than the Abrams and the T-ATU at low speeds, but will generally lose out to them at high speeds. But at the very least, this means that you're relatively nimble and agile enough to at least get out of dodge, as it were. At the very last, your basic cannon comes with 630 pen, which isn't too bad. It will allow you to pen just about any other tier 7 except for the K1A1 and of course the Type 90 and of course the Challenger as well. You also get an improved gun stabilization, but eventually you'll get the DM43A1 AP shells, which will give you excellent penetration of 700. This is tier 8 levels of penetration. And of course an improved loading mechanism. Apart from that, the smoke grenades will also give you more volleys to launch out as well, and a spore liner at the end for 250 hit points. The tank, however, does sadly not get an APS system anymore, which I kind of hoped it would, so let's have a little bit. So as a comparison to other MBTs which function similarly to it, such as the M62,000 and the Sabra, and of course the Type 90, we can see the Leopard 1 has some issues in this regard. It has the second lowest damage here, with the M62,000 and the Sabra having significantly higher. Its penetration, however, is pretty good. It's a little bit more than the Type 90, but lags behind these two as well. Its DPM is also very low, and an 8-second reload, and lastly, its hull points is only slightly worse than the Sabra. Hull-wise, it has one of the weakest hulls armor here, but it's still stronger than the Sabra or the M62,000, considering they're both basically M60s. And at the very least, it does have pretty good chunky turret armor, as you can see here. The camouflage is better than the rest, but who really cares about that? And the gun depression is pretty decent as well, beating out the other two but losing to the Type 90's hydromatic suspension. The maximum deviation and the aim time is nothing to really complain about, and the turret reverse is pretty decent as well. Max speed of 70 km an hour is pretty decent as well, with a 0 to 32 of 4.76 thanks to that diesel engine, and its hold reverse is not too shabby as well. Let's compare it with the rest of the Tier 8 MBTs, such as the TDU, the T90. Actually, let's compare it to the regular ones. So, the Abrams, the Challenger, and of course the 9910. As you can see here, this is where the problem of the Leopard 2 starts to lag behind everybody else. In fact, I think I forgot to add it to the comparison list. Its alpha damage and DPM is so low compared to the rest, it's not even funny. The Challenger eventually having a better knockout punch with 600 damage here, but at the very least it does have the highest penetration. However, the reload is extremely slow, and it also far lags behind the Challenger and the Abrams when it comes to actual frontal protection. However, the turret wise is still pretty decent as well at the very least. Yeah. View range on the move isn't too shabby, and at the very least it does have the best gun depression in the tier. And the aim time and deviation are also pretty decent as well, being only slightly beaten up by the Challenger and the T90, but having at least pretty competitive aim time with the rest. So this is a tank made for hold down situations in all honesty, and it can have its issues. I recommend a good chunk of AP shells, some heat pen. The 600 heat pen can be a little bit of annoyance at times, but to be honest, using high explosive can be a bit of a pain. As usual, standard triple first aid and spare parts crate, and an improved fire extinguisher, as heat rounds and missiles will be flung around everywhere, and trust me, you do not want to be set on fire. And also the fact that its ammo rack is in the front and in the turret means that you'll definitely want to be using that fire extinguisher quite a bit. And lastly, an improved Pioneer toolkit, improved gun breach, and a reinforced ammo rack to help out the overall durability of the tank. I recommend using Cortez and nothing but for the tank, simply because the chance of dealing max damage, which as you can see here is 570, will at least alleviate, and in Capian's words means that you'll be able to secure a kill, because there's nothing more fucking frustrating than seeing another tier 7 kill someone at 550 health and you're whacking them for 518. Not good. So other commanders, I don't really know, generally speaking. You could go for Rachel to get that cannon time down, but then of course that exposes your tank to the fact that you're a Leopard and you're in close combat. The same kind of playstyle kind of applies to the Leopard 2A5 and the Leopard 2A6, but not the Leopard 2AV, and the Leopard 2AX is just too goddamn weird to do anything else really. Crew skills wise, I would recommend off-road driving and field repair to get your tracks up. A open Leopard is a dead Leopard, and you do not want to be caught in the open with it. Gunner wise, do the twist and preemptive maintenance, otherwise you could maybe do a quick draw or sharpshooter if you're thinking about it. And lastly, for the loader skills, I would kind of recommend secured ammunition and vehicle expertise. The chance of the explosion during a fire will be nullified due to the fact that you have a fire extinguisher, and at least that's all good. At the very least, this thing's side protection is absolutely garbage, and the turret can and will be penetrated very easily. So, frontal assault wise is always very good. For now, let's have a look at two games. One of them is pretty good, and the other one kind of sums up roughly an average Leopard game for me. Anyway, let's have a look. So, the reason why I point this game out is the last 10 games in the Leopard have been roughly average for me, dealing around 4,000 to 5,000 damage, nothing special, nothing really review material. The Leopard is quite frankly an extremely difficult MBT to play. It is far better used off as lower tier most of the time, or bottom tier in games, simply because the enemy won't focus fire it as much, and the fact that in top tier games it can't really push. As you can see here, we have a 9910 and the Leopard. Neither of us can push, whereas they have a Challenger who can face roll into the enemy all day. The fact I can also be penned by tier 6s is not a good idea either. However, I want to highlight to you this game here on how to play the Leopard. You have to be safe, you have to be secured, and you have to at least play the game with a very conservative mindset. Aggressive play does not work with Leopards, trust me on that one. You will die. The alpha damage and the reload time is just too low for you to be able to consistently kill people, so you usually have to play the long game when engaging your opponents. If this means sacrificing your teammates so you can win the game, so better. As you can see here, at the very least, the start off of the MBT is actually pretty decent. It's kind of fast at the very least. The top speed is pretty okay, 70.4 I believe. Which means you're at least able to shift around the battlefield very easily, and the fact that you don't have a gas turbine, unlike the Abrams, means that you'll be able to get off to a good running start. Whereas with the Abrams, usually there's a lot of sluggishness involved. I've never felt the Leopard 2 to be very sluggish. It's always been nimble, agile, and I can always rely on its mobility to get me somewhere. So that's at least a point in its favour as well. Question is, yeah, okay. The bugs are working with that one as well. So immediately in this game, I need to find a hold down place I can go in order to take on that challenger. Our team, I have no idea why the 9910 went down there. That is not a good place for him to go. And of course, defensive positions are usually recommended for this part in the map. I'm going to aim at the C13 on that one, simply because his unmanned turret deals like a ridiculous amount of reduced damage. So if I can hit him, that's good. I am going to be using Cortez for the majority of this match. So at the very least, you can see the fat 570 is usually the best place to go. 57, 10% reduced damage on that guy. Not exactly the greatest thing in the world. I have to aim at that challenger's lower plate the entire time, and even then it kind of feels like a yellow to go through. It's going to take, God, how many shots are on? Roughly almost 8 shots to go through the challenger. And of course 8 shots is more than a minute of sustained firing for me, so it's not good. At this point I was thinking of moving up to help the team, but then I remembered there's a challenger, they outnumber us, and the rest of our team should not be down here. That challenger absolutely thrives in a place where it can brawl people, and the Merkava 2 and the MBT-70 are not suited for brawling, and neither am I. This is why I'm sitting here at the back of them. In my view, going up to them to help out, air quote, was a ridiculous idea, and you can see why, because they're simply going to get ground down by the enemy. I was thinking of using the Merkava 2 for cover at the very least. The Merkava 2 actually has better hull armor than I do, so not everything can go roughly as planned. I can't exactly show you where I'm aiming because of the bug at the moment, so you have to trust me on this one, but I am aiming at what I can. Priority targets for this one will include the C13, simply because they are an absolute bitch to get rid of, and then finally the Challenger one. I'm not particularly worried of the Type 96A, as I can penetrate him very easily, and now the enemy team is actually going to push up. If I was using a Russian tank or something, I'd be able to get them, and at this point I realised that we're going to have to get these two guys here. 570 again. If I was using another MBT in the same tier, this Stingray would be a 2-shot for me. However, he would have been a 1-shot for me at this point. But as you can see, that guy would have taken a 2-shot as well. This T80B as well is a 3-shot, and I'm going to simply slap through his turret. 570. Unfortunately, I have left the Merkava to die, but he's a pretty strong tank with a lot of armor, so I wasn't particularly worried about this. And of course, I was actually thinking about retreating all the way down here, but then I remember I can actually use this bit of rock here. Always search for hold down positions in your Leopards, guys. It is literally the only place you are safe. It is your goddamn safe space. I was actually trying to go for the Challenger at this point, but then I realised, god damn it, that C13 is over there, and now unfortunately we have the fucking artillery to deal with. As usual, Type 96A is a 1-shot for me, so I'm going to go for him, and this Challenger is going to be an absolute bitch to get rid of. As you can see here, he can basically outbrawl me as much as he wants. It's very likely he's using Cortez, and I'm simply going to back up at this point. Back up, and I'm going to go hold down versus this Challenger as well. At this point, I feel like this guy is a little bit slow with his reflexes, so I can actually outplay him at this point. And to be honest, I kind of did. At this point, having gotten another shot off on him, I would have been able to kill him. Unfortunately, this C13 had other ideas, and this guy was saved by his goddamn artillery. I keep moving down at this point so I can get actually near this Charlie, hiding my hull as fast as I can. Again, outplaying the guy. Your accuracy and aim time is actually pretty damn good, so you can actually at least do some kind of accuracy in this scenario. However, unfortunately, I bounced in the Charlie, and well, that's all she wrote, really. I really wanted to kill the Challenger, but at last it was not meant to be. And as you can see there, if I had either better reload time or damage, that Charlie would be dead. Unfortunately, this is the lifestyle and playstyle of the Leopard. Bad things will happen, and to be honest, there's really not much you can do with it. Anyway, let's have a look at that game I did. I did a hell of a lot more damage than I originally intended to, and at least proves that Leopard 2 can actually still pack a complete punch. 7.2k damage there, an absolute crap ton of damage dealt to the enemy. Using Cortez meant that I always practically ran for 570 damage, which is the most you'll ever get with it, and I don't think I ever really fired a heat shell at the enemy. Highest damage in the match, of course. I'm actually surprised that Charlie didn't do more, but then again, he did kind of face roll and got into some trouble. 18 shots fired, 17 landed on target, 1 miss. Total potential damage to the game was 7,842, and I bounced 3,637 damage, and all of this was basically on the turret. So at the very least, that helps. Let's have a look at another more average game in the Leopard. So, as I've said before, this is one of the more average games for a Leopard. This was on a assault map, which I wasn't particularly enthusiastic about, and it doesn't really last long. So I'm going to go mid-range on this map as per usual. Obviously I can't go where the NBTs are because my hull armor will get buttered. I can't go up there either, so the best thing for me to do, generally speaking, is to sit over here and snipe like a little bitch. But at least it'll be a useful kind of sniping rather than sitting at the back, which is what so many people enjoy doing. However, as you can see here, usually the lack of alpha damage is at least going to kill me. I'm kind of unsure if I actually hit that guy, and our team's lack of cover fire from those two guys over there does seriously threaten, because that Buford is able to pop up without delay really. Our team did generally screw up this map quite a bit. We have a Ramka that's sniping, we have a Stingray that's sniping when he should not. Just, you know, the usual usual level of fuckery when it comes to the game. Regardless, at this point, I do actually get a hit on that T90A, which is always pretty decent. And my better gun depression and the fact that I'm here means I can actually force this guy off the ridge, as he knows. In order to actually get a shot off on me, this T72B3 needs to obviously expose himself to do so. This is a pretty special map, to be honest. It did seem like the vast majority of both teams were just camping around in this game. It wasn't so cool. And now you're going to see what I mean by the lack of damage and reload the Leopard 2 actually has in many circumstances. I'm going to see here if that K1A1 is still going up, and I can actually get a shot into him. As you can see, 1. And if it wasn't the fact that this guy was on fire, at this point, this would have actually probably gone drastically different, as I probably would have been able to kill him. He does end up living on 3 hit points. If I had even just a teeny bit more of alpha damage, he would have gone. Lack of punches per usual. It's not exactly the greatest thing in the world. And this is where I basically decide that I'm probably going to have to die on this map. I need to go up there to fend off the Sabra and the M1A1 Abrams. It happens in the Leopard. Sometimes you have to do these kind of things. Very point at least, I have to get him. I end up killing the K1A1, but he does do vastly more damage to me, which is not good. Almost 68 more, in fact. Get a shot off on that Abrams, which is nice. And hopefully I should be able to hit the Sabra. Or not. The ERA armor does suck at times. And this is where the game is going to kind of fail for me, as you can see at this point. Was hoping to kill that guy But I'm gonna use this bit for a screenshot actually. It's pretty cool. But yeah, you can imagine what happens at this point. It happens. So, this game wasn't too hot either, but it does haul out one of the many frustrations of playing the Leopard 2, in that the lack of alpha damage and reload convenient. Getting actual secured kills on enemies can be a bit of a pain. I don't really need to tell you how that game went. But this is... it's a rewarding tank to play. The hold down scenario, the gun rarely ever lets you down when it comes to penetration, but the damage, the hull armor, the ammo rack in the middle makes the Leopard a very easy tank to take out. So yeah. Not to mention the weakly armoured side of the turret with the ammo rack being there, which thankfully it's a blowout panel, which means it won't ammo rack you, but this part will. Like I said, makes it a very painful and frustrating tank to play at times, simply because you can't do what other MBTs do, and that's basically push. Versus lower tiers, they'll penetrate you, versus higher tiers, they'll butter you, and in fact most of the time you actually have a better chance versus higher tiers than anyone else. But in the end, they'll still be able to push you because of your very weak hull armor. And it's a pretty sad state to see the Leopard in. And to be honest, all it really needs is a removal of the ammo rack to maybe around here, rather than at the direct lower plate, and then maybe some alpha damage buff to around roughly where the K1A1 is, which is, god, yeah, you can see the difference here. The K1A1 can roll up to 638, this can roll up to 570. All it really needs is a buff of around 30 or more damage and you'll be fine. But anyway, that's enough rambling. It's a fun tank to play. It's just not as good as the others. Anyway, for now we have the BM oplot review to be done on Wednesday. I hope you'll enjoy it then. I had a blast playing the tank. And we have a couple of gameplay videos due on Friday, and then hopefully a PvE stream with anybody's welcome to join on Wednesday. PvP on both Friday and Saturday, hopefully. May have some papers to do, so I might have to chalk out Friday. And at the very least, remember to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to personally help me as a person, I'm trying to get money together to be able to pay for my airport transportation costs, both there and back, when I get married on the 20th of April. Streamlabs link below for that. Every dollar helps. I hope you enjoyed the review, guys, and there is a poll up in the description below for the vehicles to be done when the BM oplot review is finished on Wednesday. So see you all then, and take care, guys.